Welcome to Vinnie Politan Investigates. How we react to traumatic events varies from person to person. Two people can experience the same devastating circumstance and deal with it in two completely different ways. But when the traumatic event is murder for hire, reactions can mean a lot more. Wendi Adelson was fighting with her ex, Dan Markel, over custody of their children when Dan was shot and killed. Immediately, suspicion fell on Wendy, but she voluntarily spoke with police, and her words became a crucial part of that investigation. I've covered this case in depth on my weeknight show, Closing Arguments, and what you're about to see are some of the most important moments from that program, the investigation of the murder of Dan Markel. Dan Markel was a bright and talented young law professor at Florida State University in Tallahassee. He had two children with his wife, Wendi Adelson. But when Dan and Wendy's marriage broke up, things got very bitter, especially concerning the custody of their children. Wendy wanted to relocate 400 miles away in South Florida, where her parents, Harvey and Donna, lived and ran the family's very successful dental practice. Wendy's brother Charlie also lived there and was also a dentist. In court, Dan was winning, and the judge was not on board with Wendy's plan to move the children away from their father and away from Tallahassee. But in the end, Wendy did move to South Florida with the children. That's because Dan was shot and killed in his driveway. It was murder for hire. Wendy's brother Charlie was sleeping with a woman named Catherine McVanoa, who was also sleeping with the father of her children, Sigfredo Garcia. Charlie paid Catherine to get Sigfredo and his friend Luis Rivera to drive from South Florida to commit the murder. All four have been convicted. And now Wendy's mother Donna has also been charged. But what about Wendy? What did she say? How did she react when she was told Dan had been shot and killed? Tonight, we go in depth analyzing the video of Wendy's first police interview. How did she react, and what about her body language? All this as we continue our investigation into the murder of law professor and loving father, Dan Markel. I want to begin and go right. This is 2:46 p.m. Wendi Adelson's police interview from July 18th, 2014. Let's watch, let's listen, and then we'll talk about it.
There was a shooting at your home, or your ex-husband's home, at 2116 Trescott. Okay. Your ex-husband, excuse me, Daniel, all right, has been taken to the hospital. He's not going to survive.
Oh my God.
Okay?
I'm sorry, Mom. It's funny. What happened?
Well, before we get into everything, I have to establish where you were and who you were with and so forth.
Okay.
Okay, and then once we've established all that, I can give you more details.
Okay.
Do you understand why I wanted you to come here before I discuss this?
Oh my God. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, you have nothing to be sorry about.
I just don't understand. How could this happen?
Can you let me get over this hump, okay? Can we do that first? All right.
Wow. Okay. Begin with you, Janine Driver. What are you seeing? What are you noticing about Wendi Adelson's reaction here to this news?
hey, I'm going to challenge conventional group thought on other people, experts weighing in on this. I, in my expert opinion, feel that it's authentic. If you played the video a little longer, you would see her palms come out. And when our palms come out, that's sincerity, openness, and nothing to hide. It doesn't mean that she might not have suspected something like this might have happened. But in my opinion, here we have that palms out. This is a very interesting thing. Unless she's read a whole bunch of detecting deception novels and been trained by you, Vinnie, and myself and other experts, this is not something that naturally happens when someone's being forthright and telling the truth. And we see these palms out. This is a vulnerability thing to show our wrists and to show open palms. I like to say, just like a handshake signifies an agreement, open palms represent this unspoken agreement of honesty and openness. So I don't think she was connected with this shooting.
Jason Solomon, your thoughts about listening to Wendi Adelson at the moment she is told by police that Dan will not make it?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I certainly respect Janine's expertise on reading the body language and appreciate that. I think that it's really hard to say. As you know, there's a lot of evidence that could point either way. I will tell you that when I first heard about Dan's shooting, his murder, I thought that Wendi couldn't have been involved, even though I knew that the family was very much at odds with Dan, because I thought Wendi would not be that stupid. One would think that her family members would not be that stupid, and they were. So it's very hard to say. I think you know, certainly we know that she knew that her brother Charlie had looked into hiring a hitman before. And so one wonders, if she knew that and she really wasn't involved, then did she not say, Charlie, my brother, my dear brother, don't you dare do anything to the father of my children. I appreciate your wanting to protect me. It doesn't seem that she said that. She's had lots of opportunities to say that she said that to her brother. She's never said that she said it. And so, you know, that's very suspicious. If she really wasn't that involved, that she wouldn't have said such a thing to her brother.
Coming up next.
Keep in mind, this thing was many months in the planning. This could have been rehearsed. They could have war gamed it. It easily could have been done to make it look like this and to make people think that she's sounding innocent.
This is true crime all the time.
We are live in courtrooms across the country.
We continue our gavel-to-gavel coverage.
This is what I love to do.
Wendi Adelson's brother and mother have both been implicated in the murder for hire of her ex, Dan Markel. Wendi spoke with police in a recorded interview before anyone was arrested. As we watch this interview, what Wendi says and how she says it are equally important. Let's go back in now. Now it's 4:40 p.m. And here the officer is talking to Wendi about what has happened to Dan. Let's watch.
Apparently there's too much damage to recover from it. Okay? That's why we need to get a hold of his
family.
Right.
I don't know what his, I don't know if he has an advance directive or
Right.
what he would have wanted. He once told me that he would want all, we joked, I said I would want to be if I was ever, I have an advance directive. I do this kind of work. I run a medical legal partnership. If I once said if I ever was brain dead, I would want to be I'd want the plug pulled.
Right.
And he said he would want all efforts made. He would be cryogenically frozen. He wanted every single effort that could be made to keep him alive. I know that much.
My understanding, and that's what we'll have to get a hold of the family as soon as possible, but my understanding is there's irreparable damage. There's nothing that can be done. I mean, I'm not there, I wasn't there, but I understand from previous cases that the brain, his brain is damaged beyond repair. There's nothing that can be done for that.
Is he still alive? Should I bring the kids to see him?
No. He has severe facial injury. I'm sorry, and I know this is tough, but I would not want my children to see.
Okay, I just thought I got this inkling that maybe he was like still somewhat conscious, and I wanted him to get to be with them. If that, okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that, but that's the way it is. They, like I said, there's severe injury, trauma.
Okay.
All right.
Is there a doctor like working on him, or are they just?
There's doctors at the trauma bay, the ER. I think he's been transferred to ICU.
Okay.
All right, and they'll have to make a determination about organs.
Oh my God.
And so forth.
Oh.
Okay, Janine, this is difficult stuff to watch, but could be evidence if she's ever charged. What are your thoughts about what she is saying, how she's reacting here? Give me your assessment.
With all due respect to everybody here, I'm doubling down on I believe. Now, listen, this is suspicious behavior we talked about earlier. Doesn't mean she doesn't suspect her brother wasn't involved. My youngest sister, was married to a guy who was a batterer. And he was arrested for trying to kill her and their daughter. He gets out. She sees a car go down the street. She's at my parents' house. She thinks that this is her ex-husband in a rental car. But it takes her 20 minutes to call me, who's up the street at a friend's house, and it takes her 45 minutes to call the police. That makes no sense. Why would she wait 45 minutes? Why? Because she suspected it. We do stupid things, we're in fear. I'm not saying she doesn't think her brother was involved, her family was involved. I don't think she was directly involved. Tiffany Hartley, I don't know if you remember this, you at home and Vinnie. In 2010, Tiffany Hartley, her husband David gets shot by pirates out in Mexico in the water. No one believed her in the detecting deception world. I came out, I said, she's telling the truth, and here's why. Sometimes the truth doesn't look the way we expect it to look. This emotion right here, in my expert opinion, trained the FBI, the CIA for 20 years, this is authentic sadness. She's telling them, keep him alive. And I know that might be suspicious that she's offering this evidence before it's asked, but she's saying, is there anything we can do to keep him alive?
I'm thinking if a jury sees this, I think some jurors, and in our newsroom, we've got a split. I don't know if it's an even split, but there's people feeling both ways on this. I think a jury could look at this and say she looks like she's genuinely impacted.
She was having a huge impact on what was going to happen weeks down the road from this, because she was facing contempt proceedings where she was accused of taking $500,000 in assets and not disclosing it on her divorce affidavit. Her husband, ex-husband, Dan Markel, had all the clout at the school. She was only hired because of him, not because of her. In a motion he raised in March, a few months earlier, he was saying her behavior in this divorce proceeding showed that she was unfit, or at least was questionably fit to be teaching law students how to practice law when she was engaging in this type of erratic behavior, according to Dan. So she was in a pressure cooker here. So some of these tears might have been this tears of relief that she's not going to have to face this judge that already just slammed the door shut on her trying to get the kids to be brought permanently down to Miami area. So she has a lot of emotion on the line here, and it is somewhat upsetting to know somebody's died now that you maybe had a part of it, and this guy's questioning you. And I noticed every time he was asking her questions that could be indicative of him like maybe not believing her, then she would start to turn on the waterworks again. So you got to look at all the evidence, not just this little snapshot, to really see how this thing worked out. And keep in mind, this thing was many months in the planning. And in fact, she was down with her parents for 2 weeks before the week Dan got murdered. So this could have been rehearsed. They could have war gamed it. It easily could have been done to make it look like this and to make people think that she's sounding innocent.
Still to come.
If, in fact, she was a part of this whole thing, she would have to be the dumbest person to be helping plan this, to then offer up Charlie on a silver platter if she thought that he did it.
This week.
Looking ahead to the day's proceedings in the abused wife or murderer trial. Plus, deeper dives into true crime stories with our daily spotlight.
Opening statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8/7 Central on Court TV.
The Did your brother ever mention hiring a hitman to kill Dan Markel?
No.
I'm going to turn your attention to your law enforcement interview, and I'm referring to page 25, lines 13 and 15. Quote, "It was always his joke. He said, I looked into hiring a hitman, and it was cheaper to get you this TV." Is that what he said?
That was the joke that he made, yes.
And hiring the hitman, that was to kill Dan Markel, right? That was the joke.
That was the joke that he made in poor taste, yes.
Wendi Adelson has publicly stated she does not believe her brother Charlie coordinated the fatal shooting of her ex, Dan Markel. But when she sat down with police in her first interview, she did provide some information which became very useful for prosecutors, including seemingly naming Charlie as a potential suspect, sort of. We're watching Wendi Adelson's interview on July 18th. Let's take a look here. This is at 3:08 p.m. Now they're talking about Charlie, who has been convicted of being the mastermind here.
Would you ever ask someone to do something like this?
Not in a million years.
Okay. Do you think someone would do this for your benefit without asking you?
No.
What good does it serve?
I made my brother, the one, his name's Charlie, the one I'm really close to, he makes a lot of jokes in bad taste, and it was a joke he made. He bought the TV for me this morning that got broken, and I was talking to him about whether it made sense to pay to fix it or whether I should get a new one, and it was always his joke that, like, he knew Danny treated me badly, and it was always his joke. He said, I looked into hiring a hitman, and it was cheaper to get you this TV, so instead I got you this TV. I mean, he would never. He's my big brother, and he's been taking care of me since I was little, but he would never. And I told that to the repair guy this morning.
Right. That's okay.
I said, he asked me how much it cost, and I said I didn't know because it was a gift, because my brother said it's cheaper than a hitman. It was my divorce present.
Okay.
Such a horrible thing to say. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
But even my family, who felt like I had been mistreated, would never do something like this. Never.
Well, you guys have been divorced for over a year. Has there been any type of abuse in that time?
Of him towards me?
Yeah.
No. It's, he's litigious, and we have an ongoing case because the house, it shouldn't be, I don't know, it shouldn't be in my name anymore, but when we settled the case of our divorce, he said, one of the agreements the court said was Danny wanted to stay in the house. They said, you can have the house, but you need to pay her half of the amount of what the house is worth. And he agreed to it, and then months passed, and he just never paid me. Okay. My parents are, very angry towards him. But even when they're around my kids, they would never say a bad word about my kid's father. They're really, really careful about that. They just like him, but they know he's the father of my kids. They would never do that. Right. I don't know who would be angry enough with him.
Well, that's what I have to find out.
To do something like this.
The brother that you're real close to, I have to do a lot of elimination at the same time. The brother that you're really close to, the one that joked about the TV and everything, what'd you say his name was?
Charlie.
Charlie, and he's in Fort Lauderdale? Yeah. Okay. Tell me what kind of car he has.
He has like 5 cars.
Tell me all of them.
He drives, I think one of them is an unmarked police car.
Oh, really?
He's a bit of a character.
Okay.
Okay, Janine, give me your analysis here, because they're talking about Charlie. Charlie was convicted by the jury.
Yeah, a whole bunch of stuff is happening here. Let's talk, when she talks about the parents, she says they dislike him, but she doesn't say disliked. So I believe she doesn't want to believe that her parents are involved. If, in fact, she was a part of this whole thing, she would have to be the dumbest person to be helping plan this, to then offer up Charlie on a silver platter if she thought that he did it. Listen, she's either the best actress, in my expert opinion. Quite frankly, if Jussie Smollett and Amber Heard had her acting skills, then they would have never been busted. They're actors and they couldn't fake it. So from my expert opinion, again, I'm tripling down here, Vinny, and for you at home, I believe it's authentic.
Jason Solomon, this relationship between Wendy and Charlie is interesting, the way she describes him and the way she describes their relationship, the big brother and everything else. But she's throwing the name out there.
It's always been, I think, a big puzzle, as Janine alluded to, of if she was really involved, why did she throw the name Charlie out there? Now, her boyfriend, Jeff Lacasse, testified at the last trial that she had a habit of sort of blurting out things that were in her self-interest. And so the theory would be that she essentially blurted out Charlie's name as someone who may be involved. I shouldn't say blurted out his name. She actively pointed the finger at Charlie, both in this interview and in the week leading up to it when she told Lacasse that Charlie had seriously looked into hiring a hitman, and when she told the TV repairman that morning about this joke that it looked into hiring a hitman. So if she was involved, the theory is that she basically was saying Charlie's name to protect herself and to make people think that she wasn't involved, because exactly as Janine said, if she was involved, why would she point the finger at her loving older brother who is protecting her? I also liked her description of her brother as being a bit of a character.
Yeah.
It's kind of an understatement.
It is strange that the person who benefited the most from the murder of Dan Markel, his ex Wendi Adelson, has never been implicated in the case, despite her brother being convicted and her mother being indicted. That raises this question: did the Adelson family keep Wendy in the dark, or will she be the next Adelson put on trial for murder? I'm Vinnie Politan. Thanks for joining the investigation.